Welcome to the Valentine's Day extravaganza. We have a single person's favorite holiday, which is Valentine's Day. It's gonna be through the lens of Gen Z and millennials because it's kind of tough out here right now. And if that's the case for you, I feel you. Happy freaking Valentine's Day. The goal of this presentation, wallow in helpless, lonely energy, but together. We need to address why dating is harder now. It is, it's just harder now. And we need to understand and combat the feelings of helplessness and doomerism. There's all these challenges. We're gonna address as many of them as I thought of. I'm sure I missed stuff. Why are we worse at this? We're so much worse at this. Some other fourth thing, probably. The first thing that I want to do is I've come up with a task. I need you to think about the couples that you know that are successful across generations. For this example, we're going to think about Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. The task is to guess. I want you to guess how Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z meet their partners. Try this off the dome because we're going to then check real data afterwards. So we'll start with Gen X on the left. Met through mutual friends. Parents knew each other, something like that. This is not the dating apps generation. In my head, I'm not giving facts, I'm doing my own task. They did these things, something like it, right? You get the gist, okay? So we got millennials next. This is the generation born from like 1980 to 1997. Met in the 10th grade or at work, or through mutual friends, or sometimes through dating apps. This is my thoughts about it. Some brewery, they're drinking some sort of like IPA or like stout or whatever the heck. It's like craft beer. Kind of supposed to be a no-no that you're not supposed to flirt with anyone at work. The thing is, it still remains like either the first or second most likely way that people met their partners in the past, according to the stats. Here's my guess for Gen Z. Met on dating apps, or at work, or in the fucking 8th grade. Again, you need to try this off the dome, and then we're gonna see what's actually happening. I think we've kind of known how dating has worked in the past, and now the scene is so different that a lot of us are struggling with it, and that was sort of the impetus of trying to dig into this. I was actually extremely wrong about Gen Z. So the online dating market is huge at 3.17 billion, and it's apparently has revolutionized, or has it? I think there's a fear of being left out if you're not on dating apps. Like if you were a Gen Z person or a millennial, a younger millennial, or hell, even an older millennial, it just seems like that's the way that people are meeting. What I would like to mention, let me find this. Gen Z are more likely than millennials, Gen Xers, or boomers to meet their match digitally, but majority of Gen Z are still not meeting online actually. This is the part that I was the most wrong about. There is more people in our generation meeting online than in previous generations. 23% of 18 to 29-year-olds report having done so. 77% met their partner the old-fashioned way. Americans are still 4 times more likely to have met their partner in person than online. That's pretty significant. We have a vastly warped perception of how many people are actually meeting online. The online dating app industry is worth like $3 billion. Then here we are, and it's just like, this is the actual reality. Crux of this presentation is I'm gonna go through why I think dating apps are kind of bad. I'm like high-key a dating app hater. Then make a case for how even more of us basically just need to do this. Even though the statistics are really high, I want you to think about the fact that everyone who is not dating anyone is not factored into this data. This stuff right here is not factoring in people that are not dating right now in Gen Z, and that's a lot of people. We need to go over dating apps, pros, the cons, then I need to advocate for just not using them, with some exceptions. Dating apps are basically useless now. We have Tinder up first. You don't have to go out and meet people. So like all you have to do is sit there and swipe on your phone, right? You don't have to do the uncomfortable thing, go up to them in public, have your heart rate be like 1,000,000 beats a minute because you have no social skills. You never actually meet people. It's so hard to get a date. You need to monetize it. So there is incentive from Tinder to be more pay to win. More horror stories that I've heard than success stories on Tinder. Isn't dating app like a facilitator to help people meet on the app first, which mostly leads them to meet IRL? Yes, it is. That is the idea. People trying to meet people IRL by connecting with them first through dating apps. And the way it works is, you know this, mutual interests, pictures of yourself, you filter it to like the best ones. So before meeting you, you're basically already vetted. Everything becomes kind of hyper optimized. Hinge is the one that when people hate on Tinder, they're like, try Hinge. People say that it's better than Tinder for finding a potentially serious partner. Still don't meet people. It still has the same problem. It's because of the vetting process. Really hard to get dates. I didn't have a good picture for Bumble, so I decided to make AI do it. can Bumble make the case that you're gonna meet online so that you can meet IRL? I don't know anything about Bumble. I have heard genuine success stories. My cousin, her husband, they met on one of these. Couple friends who have met on dating apps, but it's seeming like it's a pretty extreme rarity. You need a really, really good profile. I think you can't be short. I think you can't be broke. There's a reason that dudes lie about their height. Ladies, be honest. 5'5" in his profile. Which way are you swiping? You don't know if he is funny yet or not. You don't know if he is competent yet or not. You don't know if he reads books. You don't know if he listens to horrible podcasts or cool and dope ones. You don't know from the dating app. There's so many problems with dating apps. So when it comes to like actually getting to know the person, some of you might be thinking, why don't you talk first in the dating app and ask them some smart questions so that you know if your values line up with what you want and what you need in a partner? And to that, I say, it is so hard to have a good conversation in a dating app. I don't think it happens that often. I truly think either you have the blessing of getting a rare match, and then that match usually does not end up in an actual conversation. You get like a few matches, and then those matches like don't turn into dates either because the conversation doesn't start or doesn't go anywhere. Having a good conversation online, meeting a person for the first time is like, there's a lot of problems with it. I think there's a lot of benefits to meeting in person. I do think it's harder. It is also easier at the same time. You'll see. First of all, it's not optimized. Based on that article that we looked at earlier, we're actually more likely to want to meet the old-fashioned way. Both Vibes and the data are saying this. We're saying screw the apps. You're not sorted into basically, do they fit every standard or not? Whether you're a guy, a girl, non-binary, however you identify as, you're gonna have these problems with standards. Because everything is so hyper optimized on dating apps to see if they meet all of your criteria, people don't have an open mind as much as they do in person for like engaging with you. The first goal is to just make a first connection. That's what it means to meet somebody. Sorry, I'm crashing out. There's a fish in the sea. These do exist. These do exist, and these do exist. Plenty of them do, actually. Potential partners are out there, and this guy, they hate trying to meet people online, just like you do. Even if they're not a dating app hater, they still appreciate a real, genuine person. This is a huge one. This is a huge benefit. I just think it's really hard to meet a high quality potential partner on dating apps. It's happened before. I understand the success stories are there, but a lot of it is profit driven and a money grab. And there's plenty of reasons why Gen Z and millennials are trying to go back to the old fashioned way. We've tried the dating apps, we've noticed the problems, and we're starting to get very jaded by it. We want to meet higher quality people. The data backs it up. And this happens so much more effectively because you start by meeting the person where they're at, not by passing judgment. When you're on dating apps, the first thing you do is pass judgment. Are they a brunette? Are they hot? Are they like, and you haven't even talked to them yet. I get you have to be attracted to the person, but this quote at the bottom, meet people where they're at, but not leave them where they're at. This hypothetical person that you haven't met yet has no clue anything about you. They have no clue who you are, nothing. Your potential to be a person that is like a person they've never met before is actually pretty high if you just talk to them. That's the next hardest part. That's the next thing we have to address, just the cojones to approach a stranger. So let's talk about that next. One of the most common things that you hear for why I'm not dating or why I can't date is that there's no time. You need the time to be able to go out. You need the money to be able to go to third places. So here's the home, here's the work, here's the third places. And when you go to these third places, these are great places to meet people in person. You need to have the money to be able to do this. We have social awkwardness. We need to answer the following crucial question. Can WikiHow solve it? I don't know. This guy looks kind of locked in, though. You know what he's thinking right now? Wow, this guy's so locked in on what I'm saying. He's such a great listener. Like, what the fuck, WikiHow? They got some bangers. This last one's really good. Get out there. They can't do it because you have to do it. The only way to solve our meeting people issue is to do it ourselves. You have to practice. This is what I did for a full year. I want to preface that even before COVID happened, we were the first generation to grow up with cell phones. We were the first generation to be in high school and be teenagers, with the exception of a couple younger millennials that graduated high school from like 2012 to 2015. But we're the first generation where like all of us went through through high school and even middle school with cell phones. What does COVID do, you ask? It takes the habits that we already have and just makes it even more entrenched. We're less used to being out in the real world and meeting people out there in the real world. Is it our fault? I think yes and no. We're worse because of growing up with so much of the technology, but I also think that we should take some responsibility for learning to do what previous generations did and being more out there in the real world. That is my take. That is what I'm going to try to make the case for. When you're in school, it's easier. When you're in organizations, it's easier. You have ways to meet people in person. How do we meet people in person when it gets harder? Band. This was my way to meet people. This was community for me. This group defined pretty much everything. I ended up dating a few people from band. This is when my first couple relationships happened. Next, I'm in college. I still have a network because I did music school. My network is music school. The music department was my network. The question is, what happens when it's no longer? Like, you see what I'm trying to say? You end up with some problems. I think this happens to a lot of people in our generation. So I go to live alone. It is completely up to me whether I'm going to ever be in contact with people or not, outside of running errands. Real efforts have to be made to be around, let alone meet other people. By the way, I was single for 5 years. Basically, I had to figure that shit the fuck out. A lot of our generation needs to do this. There has to be so many people out there in our generation, Gen Z or millennials, that have this like work from home problem. And how are you going to meet people? Are you going to go to third places? You have to. What if you're tight on money? Too bad. If you want to meet people, you have to. You have to like budget and spend the money. Go out where the people are. I mean, otherwise, literally otherwise, you don't have that opportunity. We talked about the statistic where a lot of people meet through work or mutual friends or relationships. So if you live alone and you work from home, you have to figure that the fuck out. So when I started living alone, another year or two passed without anything happening in my dating life at all. Minimal efforts made. I tried to get out of the house, not be a hermit. Minimal efforts made as far as dating. I thought it was the scariest thing ever to do, to try and cold approach someone. It was incredibly scary to practice. I didn't want to do it. I'd been single for 5 years at this point. I was freaking tired of it. Something had to change. You need to become a local somewhere. I'm requiring this homework of you. If you can become a local somewhere, then that means you start to get to know the names of, if you're at a coffee shop, the baristas. If you're a regular at the gym, start to get to know the names of the trainers. They start to get to know your name. Kind of needs to be at a third place. It's not going to be home or work, so it basically needs to be a third place. We talked about how money factors into this. Time, money, these are all things that contribute to the statistic of Gen Z dating less. We can subvert that friction in certain instances. Try to allocate some budget if you have to. Ideally, if you can make it happen once a week, try to become as much of a regular as you can. I get it if you're trying to go twice a week and it really adds up if you're going to a coffee shop, but the cost benefit analysis of you learning one of the most important skills of your life versus buying a coffee once a week. I guess you could also think of it as paying for, you're investing in yourself. Every time you're there, you are at the very least practicing saying hello to the person that you're ordering from. A good excuse to talk to your barista is you have to order. A good excuse to talk to this random couple that's at the table, there's a chair there and you need to ask them about the chair. Maybe you see what's on their plate and you just want an excuse to talk to them. You can ask them, hey, what is that? But you need to become a local somewhere. It needs to happen. Try hosting something. We all know some very outgoing people that are like the type to host stuff. And you may not think that you are that person. What I also want you to think back to a time someone invited you over to an event that they hosted and you had a good time talking to people. It was a good event. Try it once. Try putting something together. At the very least, people will really appreciate the invitation. Most of them will say they're busy, but maybe they're interested in the next thing that you host. I didn't know that I was into hosting things until last year. This could be a good way that you start to get some regular hangouts with people. You need to practice talking to strangers. First, you need to practice talking to strangers that you are not attracted to, because you will never be comfortable approaching a stranger that you are attracted to if you cannot approach strangers that you aren't attracted to. By the way, if you're in line for something, if you're in line, it feels really awkward at first because everyone's on their phones or looks like they don't want to be talked to, but you do have to try it. If you don't, it's going to be really hard to make progress. It's going to be hard to get anywhere. Just try turning to the person behind you in the line for coffee and see what happens. Sometimes people actually really light up when you engage with them. I had a goal to learn the names of as many of the baristas as I could over the course of the year just to practice. Not to try and date any of them, but the more that I practiced talking to strangers, the less uncomfortable for me it got. Beginning of 2025, it was really uncomfortable for me. You have some people that are completely comfortable with doing this. I was a complete stranger to them, and they did the exact thing I've been advocating for this whole time. Once you do that for like 3 months to 6 months, you'll feel like it's so much fewer mental hoops to jump through to talk to the stranger that's there. By the time that there's someone that you have to talk to that you do find attractive, you can just treat it like a conversation with a stranger, because that's what it is. That's the idea. Genuinely, it helps me to get over my social anxiety when it comes to talking to strangers. Last slide, people are locking in on their careers. There's a lot of people that get like a new tech job, and then you're gonna be just not willing to do it. You have no time to date right now. We feel like we have to have a side hustle. We need to have a second stream of income. Any bit of free time that we have in America, we need to be putting towards making sure that we're not screwed on money. And so we have no time to date right now. It's a hustle culture, but also an economic issue. So you're not going to date someone unless the perfect person just drops out of the sky. Universe is like, hey, here you go. Again, economics. You need more money before you can have a partner. I think a lot of people feel this way because in our current economy, there's a lot of us that are low-key struggling a bit. Another one of those pressures is the pressure to present perfectly. The dating apps are so hyper optimized. A lot of us get the sentiment that you need to have the product, finished before you move on to marketing it. I gotta work on myself more. That's what I thought I was gonna do, but then after a couple years went past and I was open to dating again, another couple years went past. You can really get trapped in that mindset and not have an open mind towards dating someone because you're never gonna be ready. There's a lot of things in life where you're not gonna be ready, and you have to do it before you feel ready. All of these things combine to make a kind of helpless feeling within our generation. The more afraid you are of doing it, the less likely you're going to be to talk to people. I hope I was able to combat some of the doomerism, but I also think it's important to recognize the doomerism. At the very least, I hope I was able to provide some relatability. You're not alone in experiencing this Gen Z modern dating crisis. The numbers back it up. People that you talk to have probably had trouble with dating apps before. They've probably had anxieties with meeting people in person that previous generations didn't have as much of. We grew up on the technology, man. That is the presentation for today. I hope you enjoyed it. All I have to say is that it's up to us. We have to be the ones to make the change. We have to be the ones to go out there and not be on social media the whole time and try to make real connections. I think we can do it. And I think it is very important that we try to do it. Intentionally practicing social skills is life-changing. Literally from 2025 to now, in the span of 1 year, just trying to practice talking to strangers got me to the point where when I met my current girlfriend, it wasn't scary. I don't think that I would have been at that point a year ago. So I can't advocate for this enough. Gen Z has to lead it. Gen Z has to lead the charge towards more in-person communication. If we do, then we'll be able to be a good example for Gen Alpha. With technology being ingrained in our lives and being ingrained in Gen Alpha's lives, if we can make it important to be meeting people in person, that's great. And again, I know the statistics are saying that when it comes to meeting partners, Gen Z is meeting people in person more often than on dating apps. Again, that data doesn't factor in single people. I know I'm a dating apps hater, but the data supports my freaking bias, dude. That's it. That's the end of the presentation. I hope you have a nice day. I hope you found this presentation informative. I hope it wasn't too doomer. I hope I gave some ways to subvert some of the doomerism with how we're just not dating people anymore. It can happen. I guess I should advertise my blog. I did spend 3 weeks making a blog post about this. And here's the article that I'm talking about. It says we should talk. And it just goes over a bunch of stuff based on the research that I did on people talking to each other. I even got a comment by a published author, which is pretty cool. And he wrote a book that you should check out too. It's called It's Human to Give a Shit by John Maz. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I appreciate it if you check out my blog. Don't care if you don't, but if you're interested in this presentation at all, you'll at least like that one article that I mentioned. We should talk. Go talk to people. Go do it. Happy Valentine's Day to all my single people out there. You got it. If I can do it after 5 years, you can too. All right, bye.